We brought together a panel of addiction and recovery experts, as well as the police chief from the village of Malone, to talk about this public health crisis and the services available in our communities. Mountain Lake PBS CEO Bill McColgan moderated the discussion and questioned the panel about the state of addiction and how the overdose crisis here in the North Country was impacted by the pandemic.
Has this overdose epidemic really worsened during the pandemic?
I've never seen it as bad as it is right now. We had 5 fatal overdoses of fentanyl in the last 4 weeks, 1 in the village, 4 outside the village, completely unheard of in a small community like ours. It's just that we're battling the drug epidemic, and it seems like everywhere we turn, there's cocaine, and sometimes cocaine laced with fentanyl. We're not running into the heroin like we were 6-7 years ago, but I've never seen so much cocaine as there is now. I talked to one of my friends who's a detective in Plattsburgh, and they're seeing the same thing here. Lots and lots of cocaine. We're actually starting to see some crystal meth, like the real crystal meth as well. It is just like I've been a police officer almost 29 years, and I've never seen it like this before.
Is it primarily that we're seeing fentanyl getting into the streets? Is it that becoming much more of a problem than the typical traditional opioids that we were talking about years ago?
We are primarily seeing fentanyl. We don't see very much heroin. We don't see really any pharmaceutical prescribed medication pills. We're really just seeing a lot of meth, a lot of cocaine, crack, and typically it's always laced with fentanyl. So at our program, we have fentanyl test strips that are readily available to anybody that needs them.
The terrible part was when the pandemic hit, COVID, what was the one thing we were told to do? What was the safest thing we could do? Was isolate ourselves. So we already took a group of people that struggle with wanting to do that and recognizing that they need people around them, and we asked them to isolate for their safety. And we see a spike, and I don't think that should be a surprise. We just need to recognize that we've exacerbated that situation.
I think when the pandemic hit, which is how you originally started this question, and everybody went to isolation, we had many residents who came to us and said, please don't shut the recovery center down. Please keep 12-step meetings going on. Please allow us to gather in there. I don't think I can live if I don't have that support. Thank God Clinton County was understanding and allowed us to keep some of our meetings going on, albeit with limited numbers and precautions, and we did things like that. But it's so important. And part of the issue, MHAB has close to 100 residents most of the time. And we've tried to provide everything that they will need to find their way into long-term recovery. And just getting them to leave their room and go to the recovery center and talk to a peer advocate or come to a meeting can take an act of Congress sometimes. It's one of us going over there and literally knocking on their door and saying, come over and have a cup of coffee. It's not frightening. You will see that people love you and care about you. So we've pushed this section of society so far down that it's going to take a long time to get them back.
The panel also discussed the pros and cons of supervised injection sites across Canada, including 4 in Montreal, and right now the only 2 in the U.S. are both in New York City.
We have the Alliance come in and talk about safe using habits in our treatment setting. A bunch of people not using. And a lot of people will judge a treatment program for something like that, but we have accepted the fact that this is a very difficult thing to overcome. And instead of fighting against that fact, we lean into it.
Why can't we have a methadone clinic, a Suboxone clinic, or caseworkers to help these people, and instead of every day, yep, I'm going to go down to the clinic and get high today because I know I'm not going to overdose. I would want to give them the help first before I'd ever want them to go every day and shoot up heroin. And where does the drugs come from? Where are they getting the money for the drugs? Next week, which I've been waiting for 2 years on this, is we're going to have a licensed caseworker embedded with our police department. So my goal is, like this young lady we had yesterday who's a crack addict, is to bring this guy in and try to get her the services that she needs. Try. Because when we used to, and I'm probably offend a few people, but when we used to put people in jail, people would get clean. And I can find people that will come here and tell me that, and tell you that.
There are strong opinions about this. I've not yet gotten to the place where I necessarily agree with safe injection sites, but I do understand harm reduction and all of those things. I'm just not there yet, and there may come a day when I get there and I think I understand the necessity of them.
You can watch the full hour-long discussion on our website at mountainlake.org or on our YouTube channel.